Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Episode 5.
Episode 5 it is.
Cause and Defect.
Isn't that odd? The show for serious conversations with not so serious people.
Get it
I already
right
lost
eventually.
it. I lost my edge.
It's okay. We need to write it down somewhere anyway.
Damn it. Yeah, just have it up on the wall.
Yeah.
So we never forget.
Really?
Never,
Just like the teleprompter.
Teleprompter.
Yeah, the one I have behind you so I can just read everything I talk about.
All right, guys. Well, this episode is on climate change.
Climate change, kind of a big topic. Something we'll probably discuss multiple times, but
I'm
at
sure.
least we'll cover some of the basics today.
Yeah, and it's a very, very complex topic with lots of... I mean, you already knew we were going to be talking about some sensitive subjects. This is going to be one of those that's going to be touchy for some people.
And climate change is bullshit.
Y'all best be ready. Yeah, it's all a hoax.
Yeah.
It's all a
So
hoax.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Just kidding. But we are going to start with another section of Q&A. And we are going to end with a new game called Slap Party Smell.
Yes.
It's a new rendition of Fuck, Marry, Kill, if y'all are familiar with that game. Except you slap one, you go and party with one, and then you have to smell one awkwardly in public.
Without them knowing ahead of time.
Not without them knowing ahead of time, that's right. Either that or, I don't know, maybe we'll change it to maybe you have to smell them for like 15 minutes through a gas mask, like Jackass guys did with Preston Lacey. They like attached a big suction cup to his butt. Yeah, that was bad.
And he just shat pretty much, and he just he had to smell it.
It was so awful.
That was pretty great.
But we are gonna try to keep it short for the first segment because we are gonna have quite a long segment for the actual topic of discussion
here.
today.
Yep.
So for Q&A, I'm gonna volunteer to go first.
Please do.
All right. So this is again one serious, one not so serious.
Just like us.
Yeah. So this is not serious. Would you rather breathe in an elephant's fart via gas mask, or slap a baby for $100 while its mother is present?
I would slap the baby for free.
Would you?
Yeah, rather than
while the mother is present. So she's about to.
I don't care about her.
Okay.
I'd rather do that than smell the ass of an elephant.
Live with the fact that you probably just killed a baby.
I feel like it's better than like my face being stained brown from the smell and gaseous fumes of an elephant.
So guys, Brennan would rather kill a baby than smell an elephant fart.
Well,
you heard it first.
Yeah. I don't know if that was as funny as it was supposed to be. Just got weird.
All right.
All right. So this one is kind of, it's not really funny, but I just want to see what you have to say. It's lighthearted and playful.
Okay.
If you could be any superhero, who would it be?
Any superhero?
Yeah. I know that.
Oh, Lord.
That would require like 5 minutes of actual thought, probably.
Yeah.
But just hit me with whatever pops to mind first.
If I'm thinking Marvel, I would really like to be Thor.
Yeah, he's
Thor
pretty
would be
like
cool.
unlimited.
Yeah, he's a champ.
Ooh.
What about you?
Oh man, I got between two. Wolverine was my first thought.
Good one.
Yeah, because we all know he's badass.
That's right.
Or maybe like Vision.
Yeah,
Vision would be a good one.
I can see that.
You took me there for the Marvel world, so that's what I thought about immediately.
Very nice.
Yeah, he's got he's what cyber what is Cybertron, or he's got the same mind as
yeah, it's Jarvis mixed with Tony and Bruce.
Yeah.
It might be and Ultron altogether.
Ultron,
right?
Yeah, no, that is Ultron. That is what Ultron is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he gets the mind, or it's just like.
I don't know exactly. Sorry, we're confusing you.
Yeah.
My turn. This is a serious one. Do you think that the coronavirus is being overblown?
Wow. I think in America everything is overblown.
That's true.
That's the point of it.
And this is going to come out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it might have actually blown the hell up by then. So
yeah, let's hope we can actually put this out when the time comes.
Yeah.
I told someone at my work, like, I'm seriously not concerned about it at all until I see people like not showing up for work. You know, once I see people start dropping out, you know, left and right, then I'll be like, this might be serious.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like everything that we hear about in the news. It's the biggest deal ever, and the world's gonna come to an end.
Right.
And then like in a month, you'd never hear about it again.
And it's got a 2% mortality rate, which it's kind of high statistically speaking, but still you have a 98% chance of survival.
Yeah,
as long as you have like healthy lungs historically,
right?
Whatever,
like a good immune system. Because isn't most of the people that are being affected just like older people?
Most of the ones that are dying, I think.
Yeah. Because they just have bad immune systems already. So,
but the mortality rate is higher than the flu, so it is cause for concern. But I think it's hilarious how how scared people get. And I saw something online the other day where someone was like, people out here be wearing masks for the coronavirus, but still aren't wearing condoms.
Damn.
Got him. That's a good
true.
one.
Yeah, you probably get some worse shit just having raw dogging in the sex world rather than just touching shit out on the street.
You know?
You
You can die from syphilis.
Yeah.
That's true.
I hear it's going around. It's the syphilis season, so. All right. I kind of stole this question from Daniel, but I changed it a little bit. So, would you rather have a trip to the moon or 1 year completely paid whatever you want to do?
Including a trip to the moon.
No, you can't. You gotta leave that one. I'm saying like just your normal expenses.
Oh, my normal expenses, and I can just have a year of vacay?
Pretty much, yeah.
But but all of that's paid for. Any vacation that I want on Earth is paid for.
Sure.
Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
Then yeah, I would do that.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
whole
going to
year.
the moon would be a whole wow. Well, God.
Yeah. It feels disrespectful not to say you'd go to the moon almost.
Because then, I would go to the moon and I would see that the Earth is actually flat. So
Yeah. Then you'd be able to take those real Polaroid pictures and bring them back to Earth.
That's
Because
right.
they only use fisheye in
That's
space,
it.
apparently. So,
what about you, man? That's an interesting one. It's a good one.
man, I'd like to think with a year off I could do a lot. But I imagine I would probably use a lot of that just wasting time, sitting around doing nothing, thinking about what I could do maybe.
True.
So I feel like maybe a trip to the moon would be a lot more life-changing than just a year of sitting on my ass.
True.
Yeah. But it sounds nice in theory.
You could go so many places.
You could,
and,
if I could just
all
do
this
whatever I wanted to do.
skydiving and
Yeah, that would be great.
Man, that would be good.
But just to get in a rocket and fly away from all other people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just stand on the moon
Right.
basically by yourself and look at the
Seriously.
Earth. Look at the empty vacuum of space. That's not technically empty, whatever.
It's close to it.
Let's move
in a
on.
certain spot.
Moving on. It's my turn, right?
Yeah, I think
This one, I'm going to put you in deep water with this question.
right, huh?
Good luck, sir. You better tread lightly. Which stereotype do you think has the most basis in reality?
Oh, wow. This is not good for me. Let's just say Asian drivers.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's the one I had in my head.
I know. I feel like it's the one I'm going to get in the least amount of trouble for.
Fair.
Maybe that Jewish people are the wealthiest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the most stingy with their money. I think. Is the
Okay.
thing.
Big nose.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now that
we're-
you say that, I've got a hilarious Jewish joke. Sorry for any Jews out there, but this is a really good one. Why do Jews have such big noses?
I don't know.
Because air is free.
Ah, nice. It's like dad jokes over here.
Yes.
All right. So my next one's gonna not be bad. Not as much as you were trying to put me in the flames there. Would you rather have the same color skin as a hamburger or a hot dog?
I already have the same skin color as a hot dog. So I'm gonna say a hot dog.
Okay, there you go.
Wait, are we talking cooked hamburger?
You can have it either way you want.
Oh God.
I wouldn't. Well,
So
maybe.
either I look like Deadpool or I'm black.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or you look like Hulk Hogan. I feel like he has like hot dog skin.
Man, I'm gonna say hot dog skin
Okay.
because I feel like I would get discriminated against the least if I had hot dog colored skin.
Yes, an overcooked hot dog.
Yes. What about you?
Okay.
What you think?
I think I'd have to go with the same.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. Either way, it's not
This
good.
is why Q&A is so much fun because we can just go an infinite amount of directions.
You just never know what's going
and
to
just have a nice little section of hilarity for ourselves.
Yeah.
All right, number 4. Number 4.
Hit me with it.
Would you rather be stranded in a hot desert or a cold desert?
Ooh, man. Well, a desert is both kind of, right? Since it's hot during the day and cold at night.
I guess, but there are some depending on the distance from the tropic that it's at or the distance from the
like
equator. Some are just mainly cold.
Like a tundra type thing.
Sort of.
I do better in the heat.
You think so?
I mean, eventually either one of them would get old and I would die. and
Yeah.
lose water either way. But
I think I would rather have the heat as well.
yeah, just I don't know. I guess from being in the South my whole life, I'm just used to the heat over like freezing temperatures.
Yeah.
Because I just wouldn't want to move.
Right.
You just want to sit there and just crinkle up and die, pretty much.
I feel that.
How about yourself?
I
Same?
already said. I don't know if you were listening, but I said I would like to be stranded in a hot desert.
Will you run that back by me?
Hey guys,
Will you
I would like to be stranded in a hot desert rather than a cold one.
will you text
Did
me?
you catch it that time?
I did.
All right,
I'll
cool.
go back and watch it.
Sweet.
So
That's it for the first
No,
segment.
I have another question.
Wait, do you?
I do have
I'm
one
sorry,
more
I'm
question.
being selfish.
All
Pardon
right.
me.
This is a good one though.
Okay.
How old should people be that we sorry. People that are allowed to drive, what is the age limit we should let them reach?
80.
80. You're thinking 80-year-old people should be okay just to whip around.
80, no, 79.
Okay, so
Because
Big
my
difference.
dad is about to be 70. The reason I say that is because my dad's about to be 70, and he is still like sharp as a whip.
yeah, but your
It
dad's
might
not
decline
normal.
drastically soon, but
Yeah. He's not getting into like the shakes and the like scared face look.
not at all, not yet.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a wife to like. Well, I mean, he has a wife, but his wife doesn't badger him to no end and turn him into a fucking vampire or whatever.
Right. Or he's just happy with shitting himself and sitting in a chair all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go like in mid 70s, but once you hit like your 70s, you gotta start taking tests like every year.
Agree with that. I think that would be a good idea.
Man, I'm so sick of like having to like slam on brakes going like 50 miles an hour just for like some person like stuck up against their steering wheel that with white hair, and it gets bad. I get very annoyed and yell at them.
Well, moving on to the serious topic of discussion for today, which is climate change. Now, as you all know, we are both idiots. So we're going to
That's
do
true.
our best to try to stay funny throughout this because it could get depressing very quickly.
Yeah, that's the sad part about it.
Yeah, it is. But we are going to try to focus on facts. And first and foremost, I do want to say to all the viewers out there, don't take our word for any of this stuff. I'm going to say this again at the end of the podcast.
Yeah,
You
I
go
agree.
and look up these facts yourself. Go to Google Scholar, go to your university's Scholastic webpage, and find scholarly articles to read on this stuff.
Yeah.
And then come up with your own conclusions.
Right.
Don't take our words for it. Don't take Glenn Beck's word for it. Don't take any right or left wing media's word for it.
Yeah,
Do
that's what
your own research. Thank you.
Yeah, and not only that, research, but you can do your own experiments too.
Mm.
I mean, if you want to take it a step further and do the measurements yourself, then that's also online of how to do that.
Yep.
And how to get reliable results. So,
All right, so I guess the first thing that I should say is today we're going to be talking about anthropogenic climate change, not climate change, because
Okay.
as we all know, or you will now,
Yeah.
the climate has constantly changed since the dawn
Yeah.
of time. It will continue to do so into the future.
Is it a cyclical thing?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it varies with so many different variables. There are a lot of factors that go into I was going to say deciding what the climate is, but a lot of factors that go into making the climate what the climate is. And another thing that I maybe should discuss or exclaim for the viewers out there, the difference between weather and climate.
Oh yeah, let's hit that one first, so we don't make any wrong conclusions
Right. So
as we go here.
One of the things that I hear very, very many people who are just ignorant and dumb say about climate change is, oh, it's snowing outside today. So
Yeah.
much for that climate change thing.
Yeah, it must be fake, right?
Right. This is an instance of weather. Weather is like a specific time and day or
And, like,
hour.
geographic location.
Right. Climate is an overall average pattern of things as it goes across time, not
Yeah.
a specific instance.
Right.
And to say that climate change isn't happening because it's snowing where you are is like saying because the sun isn't out, it doesn't exist.
Right, exactly.
It's quite analogous to that, and it really bothers me when people, I don't even know if they're trolling or not. Maybe they're really just that dumb.
Yeah, I just don't think people notice that, or most people just take things at face value. So if people are, if somebody else dumb that their friends with says some comment like that around them, they're just like, yeah, I like that. That sounds funny.
Right.
I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to smash people that think climate change is real. So...
Yeah, but the argument is not whether or not the climate is changing. The argument is whether or not humans are changing the climate.
Anthropogenic.
Right.
Exactly.
So that would be via something that we like to call the greenhouse effect, which it's the principle that allows greenhouses to work.
Right. It's what actually keeps us warm.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the things.
Well, right. But we need greenhouse gases to a certain extent, of course.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like a green. I'm trying to explain a greenhouse. I think everybody at this point should know what that means. It just means certain heat and sun rays and stuff can get in, but not get back out the atmosphere.
Right, because of
certain gases.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the main thing that propels the idea of climate change is the greenhouse effect. And CO2 is the main greenhouse gas that people discuss when they talk about climate change. There are others. Like methane, for example, but there are many others. CO2 is the main one that we deal with as humans because we expel so much of it.
Right. Via all kinds of things. Cars.
All kinds of things.
I mean, we exhale carbon dioxide. I think cars has to be the biggest one. Like transportation in general has to be the biggest one, and just oil burning. Right. In general.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of different things. I'm trying to find. I wrote down some numbers that I'm looking for. Hold on, I'm sorry. Where the hell?
I think that's. Okay. I think just to start off with the basis of it, though, like where most pollutants and things that go into the atmosphere mainly just come from us burning everything. You know, we burn trash, we burn gas, we like everything we need to get rid of or use as energy. It's burned or something. So we just expel that particulate matter into the air.
And that brings me to the first objection that I hear. Okay. One of the main ones that I hear when people are objecting climate change or being skeptical about it, which is that volcanoes emit more CO2 than humans emit on a yearly basis. Which is just false. It's just wrong. There's no false. Other way around it. It's not true. I know because I have to say that I did only look up 2 different sources, and one was a scholastic source, and it was the American Geophysical Union. So if you would like to look back up and decide for yourself.
Paid by the government to
that's right. Every source that I found, the overwhelming amount of sources that I found, even in the deep dives, were all paid for by the people who are carrying this hoax on.
That's right.
But so I will give you out some numbers real quick. So as far as on a yearly basis, humans expel 32 gigatons of CO2. That's as of 2010. And a gigaton is a billion tons. So 32 billion tons of CO2 per year. I'm going to put my phone away. As of 2010.
Okay. And that's just from humans.
That's just from humans.
Gotcha.
All right. And volcanoes, according to this 2010 study, on a yearly basis, 0.44 gigatons.
So not even close. No, not even like in the same ballpark.
No, even with massive volcanic eruptions, it would get up to about 30% of it. And cars alone emit more than, passenger cars, by the way, not even like work vehicles
like
or
semis and even
passenger cars alone emit more than 4 times that amount.
Holy cow.
So anybody that says that volcanoes emit more, they just heard that from a friend and didn't actually look it up. Right. It's not true.
Right. And I have to say, obviously, like we talked about in last episode, is how much we love cars, and then we go right into how much climate change is a bad thing.
Yeah,
but also
something I battle with.
But also it's why we talked about that. We have to just change our form of of transportations in general. And going back to what you were saying about weather versus climate. One of the big arguments is that in 1934, like the U.S. had one of the hottest years on record, and that's kind of the point of it. It's not just based in the U.S. The climate is global, and over that year globally, it wasn't the hottest year on record like it was in like 2015.
And even still, it's a cyclical thing, and it's 2016, by the way, that was the hottest year on record.
My apologies.
But 2019, I'll just say that while we're on the subject, was the second hottest year on record. But that's the thing about climate changes and climate in general is the Earth has its own cycle that it goes on constantly, year after year. There's so many things that affect it. We get closer and further away from the sun, all this kind of stuff going around our patterns on the sun. There are different biological processes that release a different amount of different gases into the atmosphere. There's all sorts of interconnected variables. So it's really hard to predict. And this is why I would say that the only people that really know what they're talking about when it comes to this are the climatologists themselves.
Yeah.
So listen to our scientists, guys.
Yeah. They really, I mean, I think as most people know, and I don't know, I don't think we'll have many people argue against us on this, but scientists, most of them don't get paid a lot of money to do what they do. Mm-hmm. And most of them have a hard time even doing the research because they don't get like the funding and stuff for it. So it's not just, random bullshit that, like we were talking about earlier, the government's paying people to put out, on the internet. I'm sure there is some of that, but to the vast degree, scientists across America, across the, just the globe, are actually, doing their best to take reliable data and do real experiments.
That's true.
And when the majority of them are actually agreeing with each other, you probably should listen. It's not, if it was just a handful of people believe this over here, a handful over here, then obviously, you can use your skepticism a little bit more. But when the vast majority of people actually agree on it, and it's not even really something we talk about, or, I don't think people are really arguing that much against it. I guess maybe now because it's more political than anything. Mm-hmm. But like you said, you can, do the experiments yourself, do the research yourself. And most people, it's a consensus that it's a real thing.
Yeah, there is a scientific consensus, and people like to say, no, there's not a scientific consensus. Yes, there is. It's not 97% of scientists or whatever, but the overwhelming majority of scientists do believe that climate change is a real thing that's happening. And that's where I would like to come back at your thing about how scientists don't make a lot of money, so they really don't have an incentive to lie about things. But that's one thing is where you should be kind of wary of government scientists. Because they do, well, I guess not just government scientists, but independent scientists. If they get research grants that are of a substantial amount of money that require them to cover some thing on a certain basis or cover it a certain way in their research papers and try to make it look like something else, then maybe we should be wary of it, which is the main thing with the whole Climate Gate scandal, which I'll get into at some point.
Right. But and it's not only the government there. You got, like, I'm sure a bunch of oil companies do it and shit like that. Like, they pay to have their, the numbers kind of skew in their direction to make it seem like, we're not actually changing anything.
Right. And that's like ExxonMobil and those kind of companies are like I'm going to paraphrase this because I didn't write any of it down, but I do remember reading that they the scientists that they assigned to it basically recognized that climate change was happening, but the company itself didn't want to put anything out about it for obvious reasons because it would kind of diminish their stock
of course,
value or whatever it may be. So that's just the monetary side of things is present in science. Don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of independent institutions and that kind of stuff that check them, and other government institutions as well that will fact check and make sure everything is right, and make sure they're not manipulating data and being immoral about what they're doing.
That's the beautiful thing about science in general. It's not just, somebody's like, I sat down and did an experiment and I put it out there and now it's real. It's, people from all over the world are going to go try that exact same experiment and say, what kind of data they receive from it. If it's all the same thing, then you're moving in towards like a fact direction. Otherwise, if everybody's getting different, data from it, then people are just going to call your bullshit, and you're never going to, it's never going to make top news that discovered something that no one else could or anything like that. That's just not how it works.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, I'm going to keep going since we're on the arguments against climate change. I'm going to keep going. As a standard, I've talked about this before in the other podcasts, but as a standard when you're doing research, if you're trying to be unbiased, if you're genuinely trying to be unbiased, you should look for the arguments against the point that you're searching for. Yeah. Don't just search for this and you'll end up finding the things that you're looking for and finding out why you're right. Search for objective truth. Try to find both your side of it and the sides against its argument. Yeah,
and I can't stress enough to check your sources on that kind of stuff, because I think the majority of people's information just comes off of Facebook or social media platforms. Yeah, right. Which are great, don't get me wrong. It's a good way to waste time, and if that's what you need to do, and it's hilarious, but you really, there's plenty of actually good sources out there that you should be reading into, and sometimes I totally understand, like with the academic journals and research papers, they're not the most interesting reads. They're not that much fun, but the work is out there at least, so don't say you didn't have the option, or it's hard to. I have like the mind frame of like I hardly ever say something is a whole truth. You know what I mean? Like it's 100% right.
Truth,
exactly, because there's always some things about it that I don't know or don't understand, or that could be discovered in the future. So it's hard to say like doesn't exist. I know for sure. Blah blah blah. And that's all there is to it.
Right.
Things just they shouldn't work that way anyways.
No, they shouldn't. But I'll present another argument that I heard I heard it in the field when I was working, and I also heard it from somebody who I won't mention because they're kind of close to me. But basically, I heard that when they said that when they were little, these were both I don't want to say elderly, but they were older adults, 50s. When they were little, the scientists were saying that the Earth was cooling and we were going into another ice age. And now they're saying it's heating up. It's just all bullshit. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a lot of things I could say about this that make that just wrong.
Yeah.
Number one, the beautiful thing about science is that they try to prove each other wrong. And just because the scientists back in the day were wrong doesn't mean the scientists of today are wrong. Right. That they improved on the theory that people saw. They saw these trends. Back when they were kids, they had only been taking climate samples for maybe like 100 years or so, and now that it's like 140 years that they've been taking climate samples, they're starting to see the trend go way up into warming, and now we're at the 2016 and 2019 being the two hottest years on record, and things fluctuate, obviously.
Right, of course. We're going to go through those cycles just like you said. Mm-hmm. But it's obvious with just, and there's tons of ways. I wrote down a lot of the variables and things that we test to actually check climate change, because most people think you just like go outside and be like, it's hot today, so yep, climate must be changing. But there's tons of different ways to actually measure the results here. Which kind of led me to one of my things is or what you were talking about, just like the ozone was the biggest problem for a while, and now nobody talks about it, so people just think it's kind of bullshit.
Well, it's gone away.
Right, a lot of it has, but people don't realize it's because like a lot of laws actually went into place because of that.
Yeah,
you can't use aerosol cans, like it doesn't come with the same gases in it. Like people are actually, you can be fined for letting Freon out of your cars or refrigerators, like that stuff. I mean, you can get in a lot of trouble for that kind of stuff, and the reason is because we have scientists actually doing work here to change the laws and the things that we do. Right. To make a difference.
And that's nice. A tough thing. That's going to be one of the biggest things that people are going to have to get over in the free countries of the world is laws coming into place to mitigate climate change.
Yeah, people don't like that.
The universe doesn't need you to understand it for it to be the way that it is.
Right.
So just because you don't understand it, you have to believe our scientists. That's my main point of this, is go and read what the scientists are saying for yourself. Otherwise, don't try to dispel misinformation. Yeah. Or disinformation, or whatever you want to call it. Go and do the research yourself. Trust the scientists. And if, because of science, certain laws are put into play, do it. Just right. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
And you still don't have to take it as blind fact. I mean, you can still, there's still plenty of different research out there you can go and read yourself and understand. I mean, it just goes back to the whole point of you don't have to believe everything you hear, even if it's from a scientist. But once the majority of people start doing it, and the signs all point that way, the tests have been done by people all over the world, really. Yeah. Then it's it's kind of leaning in that direction.
That's right. And that's when I don't listen to just one scientist either, like you just said. Right. That's why I keep saying scientists. Listen to the scientists. They're constantly checking each other and doing all these things to try to prove somebody else wrong or whatever, which is great. So trust them. And if it becomes a big enough problem that we have to make laws to mitigate things, then it's a good thing in the long run. It will be. I have to believe that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people too just like to exercise their freedoms. Yeah. Like because it's not immediate, so people just want to be jackasses like with huge trucks, and they want to stomp the gas and fucking smoke guns out everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, just because you can do that doesn't mean you should. I mean, no one's gonna obviously tell you not to, at least for the time being, until it does become a problem where we start being reactive enough to change those kind of things.
It's the same thing with hunting and fishing licenses too. Like, I understand people's frustration with you can't just go out and fish somewhere, but think about how many humans want to go out and go fish.
Mm-hmm.
If every human could do whatever he wanted to do, how easily could it get out of hand where you just drain a lake of its life?
Yeah.
How easy could that happen?
And a lot of it's just like special parts in the ocean, like like in fisheries and things where, a lot of shrimp boats or whatever kind of fish they're going after, or sea creature, it just gets overfished. And over that time, you take out all those fish, and it changes the ecosystem all around. Because if things feed on that, it feeds on other things. And so things just get out of balance, and it just changes ecosystems altogether. So you have to put laws and rules in place to regulate those sort of things. Of course, it's not fun, and it feels like it's taking your freedoms away. But ultimately, you can't just think about you in that specific moment. You got to think about just the greater good of everyone forever, if we're going to survive.
The sad reality is you can't literally do anything that you want to do.
Yeah, right. Your liberties extend as far as the next person's.
Yeah.
And that comes for future generations as well, just not just the people standing next to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks because it's going to be such an infrastructure change, going back to cars and things like that, and all the things we are going to have to change in order to be on the right path. And unfortunately, the way that we work as humans is that we're very reactive rather than proactive.
Unfortunately so.
And we're going to get to a point where it's pretty much too late, and we're just going to have to change because the environment's changing so much. Mm-hmm. Instead of actually, wanting to strip those kind of liberties we have and making those sacrifices to make a difference in the future. Mm-hmm. That just sounds too hard. Yeah. Like, I'd rather just drive my truck down to Subway and and I don't even know where I'm going with that, but no, I mean, people are just going to continue because it's not something that's immediate, Right. So if it doesn't happen right now, then it must not be happening.
Yeah.
I'm blind to it.
And this is one thing that if there is even like a 75 to 80% possibility that something as serious as this is actually a problem, then why would you not want to help future generations in that way?
Yeah.
Like, because I don't get it. I don't get not being willing to make even like the smallest sacrifices to try to help future generations. And this kind of brings me to an interesting thing that I noticed when I was shopping for paper towels. Mm-hmm. And I noticed there's a company called Seventh Generation that's like a renewable paper towels company. They do other environmentally friendly stuff and have environmentally friendly products. But I was wondering what their name was all about, and it's actually like an old, I think, Inuit philosophy, and it's that if what you're doing positively, or if what you're doing, don't do what you're doing if it is going to negatively affect 7 generations into the future, or something along those lines.
That's interesting.
I'm paraphrasing it, but
right, but still,
I thought it was neat.
I'd have to say people don't think about that. I mean, I don't think about it on my day-to-day basis. I don't, because you leave lights on in your house. I mean, things like that, just they really add up. You're using resources. Everything that you do takes energy. And if you're, leaving lights on or flushing toilets, that's the number one use of water in municipalities and things like that. Yep. So, and driving excess amounts. I know it sucks because we just talked about how much we love cars, but ultimately it's all a big waste of resources, and it all goes to a future problem. And it's just that we're not faced with it right now, so we don't care as much. And like I said, as much as people don't want to think that they are, everyone is selfish to a certain degree.
You have to be.
Yeah, right. Some people way more than other people, obviously. Like people like us, or no, I'm not going to say people like us, but, we at least think about things in a certain degree where, I do turn the lights off when I leave. I try not to, just drive extra or drive wildly to waste resources, trying to think about people in the future.
Even considering it, you're helping the problem.
Right.
If you... just considering it and changing your actions, even in the slightest, changing the person that you are in the slightest. Well, I guess it's not even changing the person that you are. It's just being considerate of the actions and the implications that it has beyond you.
Just change your routines to a certain degree.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to. If this climate change thing is even half as serious as people think it is, there's a point where we're gonna have to change something.
Yeah.
So we don't have to drastically alter our lives right now. I'm not one of those doomsday people that's going to say the earth is ending in 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not that person, but I am the person that says change needs to happen, and change needs to happen on an individual basis. And it starts with you guys. It starts with each and every one of us.
Yeah.
Humans are powerful, powerful, powerful creatures. Right. And we do, believe it or not, hold a serious position on this planet and have incredible influence on this planet. And that kind of leads me to a funny thing. I picked up a Rush Limbaugh book the other day when I was in...
all I think about is Family Guy when I hear his name for some reason. I feel like they just talk about him all the time.
No, but I picked up a Rush Limbaugh book in the middle of a Habitat for Humanity restore the other day, and just to read it, just to see what it was about. Mm-hmm. And I, being the type of person that I am, I went to his chapter on environmental science like immediately, or environmental policy, just to see what he says. And one of the first thing, he makes like 9 points. One of the things that I don't remember all of them, but one of the things that he says in the 9 points was that humans are incapable of destroying the environment. That is just the most ignorant thing. I had to close the book.
I really couldn't understand even one single shred of evidence to support
there's
that.
not. If you could zoom out, you could see the scars that we've left on planet Earth. And I can even give you, right off the top of my head, I can give you an excellent example. The tropical rainforest, right? So
coral reefs.
Yeah, but the tropical rainforest is like easy to see if you look at it. So we're destroying and deforesting the tropical rainforest to make room for other tropical crops that we're trying to plant. Palm oil is a big one, for example.
Yeah.
That's not the plant, but the plant that we get palm oil from.
Right.
So we're cutting down all these trees and destroying all of this ecosystem. And the competition there is so incredibly fierce that nutrients hardly have a chance to get into the soil and create a certain topsoil. So the topsoil in the tropical rainforest, if you look up pictures, is inches. It's like nothing. Wow. Right? Yeah. So once that is gone, it basically can't grow back. Right. Because there's nothing there for it to grow on. It can't really spread like that. Because the competition is so fierce that any nutrients that go to the ground get taken up immediately.
Sucked up by something.
Right. So if you look at it, go and look up pictures. I encourage you, go and look up pictures online of the topsoil of the tropical rainforest. It is incredibly thin, and it is a beautiful, beautiful ecosystem that we're destroying for the sake of humanity. And there are ways that we can stop it. I don't want to get into all that right now.
Right.
It's going to take a lot of individual changes. It's gonna, like I said, it all comes back to you. Changing your habits and consumption, reading the ingredients on what you're consuming.
And I think if everyone just made like a small change, it would make a big difference.
Absolutely.
You know, everyone doesn't have to change their whole entire lifestyle. Like we said, just turn off lights. You know, actually recycle your plastics and trash. Maybe just eat less meat. You know, that might be a touchy topic for some people.
I was going to jump right onto that. Recycling is a humongous thing that we should all do. We should go out of our way to recycle things.
Yeah.
But I will say that the meat industry is a humongous supplier of greenhouse gases.
And methane.
And I'm not saying stop eating meat. I wouldn't tell you that. I eat meat. But be conscious of how much you eat. Yeah. You don't need it for every meal.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if that's a Southern thing, but it's like we feel like we have to have like some sort of meat to be satiated for every meal. Mm-hmm.
And that's
like
just
that's the
untrue.
only place where you get protein.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's
all of the protein that they got, they didn't generate it. They got it from plants.
Right.
You can get as much protein as you need from plants.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how much you're eating.
Yeah,
what you're eating.
It's incredible the footprint that the agriculture industry, you know, leaves on the earth. Like we said, like tons of methane from cows and livestock, and oh gosh, yeah, it adds up because I can't imagine how much meat is just produced and packaged every year for Americans alone, man. Especially not even all over the world. Mm-hmm. You know, like that's just one of those little changes that really would help. I don't think people think about that because it just seems so natural. There's meat everywhere you go. Every grocery store is just, full of it. Everything you get on most menus has some sort of meat on it, even salads.
And that's slowly changing, I've noticed, which
I
is
think
nice.
so too. I mean, you do see I guess black bean patties and I guess plant-based stuff a lot more often.
Yeah.
I would still be wary of that from certain places, but
And don't take my word for this meat having...
Take my word for it.
The meat industry producing a lot of greenhouse gases. Go and look it up for yourself, really. And you'll see that we're not just blowing shit out of our ass. This is a real thing.
Yeah.
And if you even cut your meat consumption by a third, it would do a tremendous amount on a large scale. So just consider these things, and everything that we're saying, go and look it up for yourself before you jump down our throats and say this blah, 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 this is wrong.
Right.
We don't want to hear that if you haven't looked up your information for yourself.
Yeah, and this is just one of those topics, like you can disagree, but ultimately your opinion's wrong. So
opinions don't matter here.
Yeah,
that's why we're saying listen to the scientists. Go and look up scholarly articles that have been peer reviewed by numerous people. Go and look those up. They're not void of opinion.
Yeah,
but they revolve around numbers.
Yeah, I think something you said earlier that it seemed to skim over, but scientists love to prove other scientists wrong. That's like what gives them clout or fame or just recognition in the field, is if we can take something that someone else at a prestigious whatever institute is saying and we can just prove them wrong. Like, they love to do that shit. They love for them to be right. But if they do the same thing and get the same answers, then that's when you actually start getting scholarly peer reviewed thing, is when people are trying to prove each other wrong but are all getting the same answers. It's not just a group of friends doing something and saying like you're right or you're right. That's just not how it goes. Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to another argument against climate change that I found. Some people say that the temperature records and models are unreliable.
Yeah, I did see that the models are unreliable.
That's most of the time also untrue.
Yeah, I mean, there obviously can be variances. I mean, we can have things that, just that we couldn't have predicted, but at the same time, there are trends. It's cyclical. Things kind of happen over and over again throughout time and history. So.
Yeah. But like a big thing and part of what they say is that thermometers have poor placement. And they're placed in like the concrete jungle, so it gives like a bias towards hotter temperatures and that kind of stuff. But studies have been done on the poor placement scenario, and it has basically been dismissed because we have just as many rural placements as we do urban placements.
You're right.
And both show the same trends.
Right.
So.
And that makes sense. And we don't, we obviously don't just get it by temperature. There's variables in the ocean. There's variables, just in land and stuff like that, and in the air. So the air temperature is just one of the ways we can measure the change. And if you just say, well, that one specific thing is bullshit, okay, well, you can have that one. There's plenty of other ways we can try and test to see if things are changing.
And that's like one of the things that I should discuss here is that there are, like I said at the beginning, there are a multitude of factors that you could look at when you're discussing whether or not climate change is a viable theory or not.
Yeah.
Or anthropogenic climate change is a viable theory.
Yeah.
So if you see that this one thing is bullshit, okay, well, go and look it up for yourself, number one. Number two, are all of these other things that are happening also bullshit?
Yeah.
The hundreds of other things?
Yeah.
That scientists are claiming or seeing or whatever it may be.
Right.
I don't know.
Or even if this one person's bullshit, there's plenty of other people that are having the same answers and same discussions.
Don't get your damn scientific news from Fox News.
Seriously, it sucks that it's political.
That's one thing that I'll get into when I talk about ClimateGate a little bit, because it's an inherently political topic. It has to be, because you have to cover it or you're not covering important news.
Yeah, and it sucks that I don't want to get too far into politics, but it just sucks that it's just, you have to agree with this party or this party and like wholly believe them, whatever they say.
We'll have a whole episode on the bipartisanship of America, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure
I could go for a long time on that.
It just annoys me.
But I'm going to jump in. Before I jump into ClimateGate, there was one more argument that I saw that I just thought was kind of a good argument, and maybe not a lot of people here. So the argument is we're heading into an ice age, and some people say that the glaciers are growing. Some scientists say that the glaciers are growing.
Yeah, that kind of goes, sorry if I interrupt you, but it kind of goes along with that people don't really think there's a consensus. Some say that it's cooling, some say that we're getting warmer, some say that it's the ice caps are shrinking, and some say that they're getting larger.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's true that some are growing, but most of them are not.
Yeah.
Most of them are shrinking.
And we have great ways to test it. Not only being there. I mean, if you watch like scientists that actually go to these areas to take ice core samples and stuff like that, who are there every year to do the experiments, they can tell you firsthand that it's that ice caps in certain areas are receding. You can tell with polar bear populations, but we even have satellites in space that monitor this year round. Like topographical, surveillance and all kinds of things to see what's actually going on.
But anybody that sends satellites into the air is a liar. NASA.
Yeah.
They're just it's all bogus. It's a hoax. NASA and the NOAA are both full of shit.
Well, what would be the point? That's where I want to get to. For anyone that thinks that, I mean, I would just say, provide proof, and why all these people would want to have the same goal of tricking Americans into making better change for their lives.
Right, and it's like a huge there's not just a couple of thousand scientists. There are millions.
Yeah, exactly. There are millions.
There are a lot of scientists that would have to be lying or just I don't even know, man, but
and say that if you go into science and say some of that's bullshit, then how are we able to do this right here? Speak into microphones and blast it across the internet. This all comes from science. It's not like it just works in certain areas and then some areas it's pure bullshit. That's not how it works.
The greatest hoax ever perpetrated on humanity. I've heard that about climate change and about evolution, and we will have an evolution episode, which I'm very much looking forward to.
For that.
That's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I don't know. It is not one of those things you can argue with. I mean, you can have your opinions, but that's where I'd have to go with. Most people, the only reason they have their certain opinions is because they haven't done the research, or they're just trying to agree with their social party. But what do you think are some of, maybe, I guess, I don't know if you plan on going here, but some of the biggest impacts of climate change?
I hadn't really planned on going into that, but I guess the biggest one that I'm thinking of is it's climate change isn't a solo problem. It comes with other problems. For example, I guess this is where I can get into ocean acidification. Yeah.
I mean, that would be one of the impacts.
And that's one of the biggest impacts. I don't know how many of our viewers have heard of ocean acidification, but it's like the ugly twin sister of climate change. It's basically like our oceans are a humongous sink for CO2, and CO2 inherently increases the pH of water.
Yeah.
So over the past, hold on, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about what pH is, a little bit in particular. So pH is basically a measure of hydrogen ions in a parts per million basis when it comes down to when you're looking at a chemist's standpoint.
Yeah, like a sample.
Right. Yeah. So and hydrogen ions. I'm gonna not get too scientific. Let's just say the top of the scale, at the most acidic, which is like a 1. The scale goes from 1 to 14.
Yeah.
At the top of the scale, there's hydrochloric acid and like lemon juice.
Yeah.
Right up
very
there,
acidic,
1 and 2.
Obviously.
Down to 14, it's like bleach and milk of magnesia and that kind of stuff.
Basic.
Okay. So
which both are
water
on both scales are very toxic. Like you need to be in that neutral 7-ish. I don't know as far as like ocean water goes, but 7 to 9 and more alkaline or basic is acceptable for humans, I guess. You know what I mean?
I think you can. I mean, you can go a little bit more acidic with water, because I think ocean water is in the 6s.
Okay.
But distilled water is a 7. Purified and distilled water is a 7. But so with that being said, I need to say that I'm looking at the wrong thing right now.
That's because you have a notebook over here.
I know. This is an important episode. I wanted to be prepared. So since the Industrial Revolution, about 200 years or so, the surface pH of the ocean has dropped by 30% in 200 years.
Yeah.
That is unprecedented.
Right.
That right there should be alarming.
So what would that mean, on not a numbers, basis? What would that mean impact wise for sea life?
Good question, Ben.
Yeah.
So a lot of, from what I've read and what I remember reading and hearing in college, is that the most affected thing, it's going to go over the entire ecosystem, but the most affected thing is going to be shellfish and their ability to produce shells in a lot of ways. So when you think of crustaceans and when you think of gastropods and stuff like that, like oysters and mussels, it's harder for them to calcify a shell around themselves. So that's going to be a large obvious impact both for fisheries and for the ecosystem of the ocean itself.
Right.
And it's just going to cascade up in that way. Not only that, the temperature of the oceans is going to increase, so things are going to have to migrate. And
little, like, I think I said this on like the first episode or so when I touched on this, but little varying degrees in temperature makes a huge impact.
Yes.
It's not like, people are like, so there's 1 or 2 degrees. Like, that's a huge impact when things have been built over, hundreds of thousands, millions, if not billions of years to form in a certain way for a certain ecosystem and survive in that ecosystem.
Right.
You change the internal temperature of just a human by a few degrees, it makes a huge deal on your body and how you feel and how, so that's a huge thing and I feel like everybody kind of forgot about the coral reef thing going on, how we've like killed over 50% of them, like what, in the last 10 years.
I don't know the numbers on that.
Yeah, I don't either, but it's been at least, I think that's pretty close to accurate. Unless someone's just fluffing up the numbers, which again, why you should go look for yourself.
Right.
But it's obviously been a big deal. I mean, because half the Great Barrier Reef is dead now, which is so sad to look at the pictures. Have you seen the pictures?
Yes,
I'm sure you have. But it's like beautiful and streaming with life, 10 years ago, and now it's just all dead, nothing, just carcass of a reef.
Yeah. So let's get into Climate Gate.
I don't want to talk on some more impacts.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And really, I think just to say it simply, the climate affects a lot of things. It affects like, storm patterns. You do get fiercer storms, and then when you get drier seasons, you get much moister. I'm just kidding. That's not a word.
Moist.
Much wetter season. But forest fires is a big thing. So apparently, just from like 1984 to 2015, I'm just going to read this because I wrote it down. But anthropogenic, stimuli, I shouldn't say it like that, but processes increase fuel aridity, and I'll explain what that means in just a second. But
they don't.
You're right. It doubled in the western U.S. like forest fire area. Beyond that's what was expected just from natural climate change.
Right.
And I'm getting this from the National Academy of Sciences, so it's not just something I'm making up. But fuel aridity basically is just the degree to which a climate lacks effective life-promoting moisture. And the fuel kind of refers to vegetation.
Right.
So if there's not enough moisture in the air, it's really dry, things can't grow, things catch on fire very easily, and then that forest fire spreads. Yeah. And then vice versa in the other direction, it could be too moist, and I think that's what creates like big storms and tornadoes and hurricanes
it's the big differences that we're gonna see with climate change. Because that's like one thing that I've noticed. There have been a lot of especially even this year, a lot of fluctuations during the winter. So there have been really, really warm days and then pretty cool days. But it's not going to be just like this one gradual warming thing. If you could look at the graphs, you would see lots of jumping up and down, but it's about the entire trend. You would see jumping up and down, but it would be as going. If you're watching the camera, I'm going to do it at the camera. It would be like this. But, yeah, that's something that you have to understand, that one particular instance of weather doesn't indicate anything.
Yeah, especially like you said, a trend over decades. Like there's obviously a difference,
right?
Versus like even just 1 year, that's not going to give you a big enough sample size to really extrapolate a trend going on.
Right. And that's like a lot of what the scientists say is that it's not going to be just it's not going to just bake us. It's going to be a thing of, we'll notice weather volatility. There's going to be a lot of changes. Yeah. And that's why like I don't remember the last time we had a bunch of tornado warnings in winter. Do you?
No, no.
Tornadoes in winter are not a normal thing, and we've had like 3.
Yeah, we've had a lot this season. It seems like and that's still one of those things that could be completely different next year. We could have none.
Right.
It's one of those things you just kind of have to document and put it into the data, put it into the models.
And our picture of things will improve over the years.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been a lot of data, like you said, going back for tens of thousands of years. We just have to extrapolate.
Yeah, and all we have is ice cores and tree rings and that kind of stuff. And tree rings, they're pretty accurate up until about 1960. That's where, like, I don't know why that is.
I was about to ask, why?
I don't really know. But that's one of the things that I was looking into, and I found out about. It relates to ClimateGate in a way. Which I'll explain in a little bit when we get into it.
Right.
You still looking into impacts, or you got anything
No,
else?
I was gonna. You brought up ice cores, so that's a great way that we can actually see the past atmosphere of the Earth. Because what happens is, the CO2 or whatever kind of molecules get trapped as air bubbles in ice, and it gets trapped for hundreds of thousands of years going down, because the ice kind of gathers obviously as it goes, and it stacks up and stacks up. So we can drill way far down, pull out, basically the atmosphere of the planet, 10,000 years ago, and monitor how much of, CO2 is in the sample versus how much CO2 you might get out of a sample of ice from like the last 10 years.
Right.
And we can, compare that and draw it out over, I don't know exactly how long or how far back we can go with those kind of samples, but it's far enough to notice a trend, and actually to notice, you can actually see in the samples of like when humans like when the Industrial Revolution started basically, and how much like CO2 and stuff started stacking up in these core samples. It's sad to see, but
yeah. And I just I'll remark for just another minute on, I don't understand how people couldn't put things together. Like, if you understand what the greenhouse effect is, know that CO2 is a greenhouse gas, recognize that we're emitting a lot of it. How do you not kind of see that could possibly cause a warming scenario in itself?
Right.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it maybe they think it's interacting with space, and we're the space is taking it out, or we're cycling it in some way. I don't know, which we are, but we're overloading the Earth with it.
Yeah,
it's something that we're doing so fast that people can't really prepare for it.
Right. It's anthropogenic, so it's just us versus what the climate would do naturally.
Yeah,
it's how we progress it in a certain direction or another. And obviously with CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions, methane, all that kind of stuff, it's at a way higher level than what we could predict if humans weren't adding to it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of it, is there are the cycles, and it's going to go up and down, but we can see our effect on it. And like I said, we can go back to the kind of Industrial Revolution and see how things kind of took off from there, and all the shit we started putting in the atmosphere.
Right. I
mean, that stuff, like I said, in those cases, it freezes in the ice and doesn't go anywhere. It can't, and obviously nobody's going and putting air bubbles down in there. So when you pull it up, it's not like it's been tampered with. It's what actually happened at that time.
One funny thing about the ice cores that I'm going to bring up real quick, it's kind of unrelated to climate change, but it actually relates to evolution a little bit. I watched the debate between Bill Nye and Ken Ham.
Yep.
And
that's what made me think of it originally.
Yeah, and the whole ice cores thing is one of the many things that Bill Nye brought up to Ken Ham that he could not explain and didn't even bother to jump at it.
Yeah.
But basically, they have enough distinct layers in these ice cores. When we say ice cores, they drill down and pull basically like a tube of ice that shows the different weather patterns that have happened in the past, shows how much ice has been submitted, like Brennan said, what kind of gases are present in those, blah blah blah. But basically they've pulled up enough layers in an ice core to basically show that the Earth is well over 10,000 years old.
Yeah.
And that's just something that, how do you just ignore that and keep moving along?
And the main argument is all about how you interpret the data, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's one of those things. Is like, if you can provide a better and more consistent answer or way of determining the answer, then that's great. Like, people would jump on board. If somehow we figured out that the Earth really was 6,000 years old, like,
great.
Yeah, that's great things we need to know and need to learn.
We need science.
But there's no evidence beside that, and you can't just say. And there's a point where people like Ken Ham that have their ways of interpreting data. It's gonna break down at some point, and there's gonna be something, which I think everybody should watch that debate because it's great to hear. But you're gonna see where this sort of these sort of experiments, or however the way they interpret data breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, let's get back on to climate change. Did
Okay.
you have any other impacts that you wanted to talk about? Otherwise, I'm gonna jump on the ClimateGate just a bit.
No, we talked about glaciers and ice caps, all that's melting. We can see that, the sea salinity and stuff like that because of like certain precipitation and like fresh water
glaciers being dumped in.
Exactly. So it's changing salinity, which changes obviously what can live in that part of the ocean. Excuse me. It changes the color of the ocean itself with the phytoplankton. So we can see what's alive, and phytoplankton is basically just little, I don't even know what to call them, but they just float through the water, and a lot of animals feed off of that. Yeah, so obviously with a lot of phytoplankton, it'd be kind of a greenish, brownish color, stuff like that. So
yeah, and I guess I could talk about what diatoms are for a minute.
Yeah, because I have no idea.
So diatoms are the main respirators of our planet, basically. So they're a microscopic organism that I think they do roughly about a third of our respiration on their own. But that's something that people really think that trees are like the lungs of the planet.
Yeah.
Which isn't really true. They don't do most of the respiration.
Yeah.
It's actually microscopic organisms because there's so many of them.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, go.
No, you're good.
Keep going.
I was just going to say that people don't really know how more CO2 around is going to affect those because they do breathe in CO2.
Mm-hmm.
So they think that at first it would cause both like a bloom for diatoms and other algae. Or algae, and also the same thing with forests and with plants. It would help them in the short term, but over the long term, it would change the amount and types of nutrients that are available in the system. So they would have to photosynthesize more to produce less, and then that would echo things up the food chain. I don't really know a lot about the science there.
Not only that, just kind of a thought I had, and I don't know if it's actually accurate, but with more algae, that covers more of like a pond or a certain part of water. Mm-hmm. So that actually can grow so thick that things underneath it can't get sunlight and grow. And so that could actually be a huge problem.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of it is kind of sorry. I can't think of what you were saying, but just like the natural algae across the world, there's an actual term for it that I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but it's a type of biolife that just supplies a lot of the oxygen and takes up a lot of the CO2.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
respirators.
Yeah, exactly what I'm getting at. I just can't think of the actual term.
Mm-hmm.
But
all right, so let's jump into ClimateGate real quick. So ClimateGate is basically the term that people use for this scandal that came out when a hacker exposed. It's actually been on two separate instances. Mm-hmm. A couple thousand emails in total that have been exposed between the scientists of the IPCC, the International Panel for Climate Change.
Yep. Intergovernmental panel.
Okay. Sorry about that. Close enough. But basically, there are several emails in question that make people think that that they're making figures up.
Some sort of scandal.
Yeah, and they're buffering the numbers in a way. And the first thing I should say about this is I'm sure it was covered on Fox News or on some other channels, and they're saying, oh, well, look, here's obvious proof that it's a hoax.
Right.
But they didn't look anything beyond the actual textual inferences that they were making in the emails. Mm-hmm. They read one email and think that they know everything.
It's like people that read the Bible.
Isn't that crazy? Let's not get there. Okay. Let's not do that right now. But basically there are certain terminology that they use, which given is questionable. It's questionable. I'm gonna read you. I didn't write down the exact quotes. Yeah, I do. Okay. I have one exact quote here that was one of the main ones of importance. Actually, I have two. So here they are. I've just completed Mike's nature trick of adding the real temps to each series for the last 20 years, from 1981 onwards, and from 1961 for Keith's to hide the decline.
And who's having this discussion?
Decline. This is just some scientists on the IPCC. And here's the other one, which I'll address separately. It's a travesty that we can't account for the lack of warming. If you just read those, sounds kind of damning.
Right.
I will give you that.
Right.
But you didn't look into the actual substance of the narrative that was going on. So what they meant by Mike's nature trick is that they're referring to a type of graphing technique. So basically what scientists do when they are creating research reports, especially if they're doing it for a specific grant, they do have a specific goal in mind. Now, this is why I say that you should be careful of intergovernmental scientists or of scientists that are being paid by one certain body to produce a certain result.
Right.
You should look at lots of different grants that are being given.
Right.
So basically what they do is when they have this data, it is immoral to fiddle with the numbers and change the actual numbers. But you can do whatever you want as long as you're representing the numbers in a truthful way, and you can fiddle with what numbers you put on the graphs to make them look a certain way.
Right.
That's what they're talking about when they say a nature trick. And the decline that they were talking about when they say hide the decline is the decline in the tree ring temperature finding reliability from 1960 onwards. That's the decline.
You're gonna have to hit me with some more info on that. I don't know what that means.
So they use tree rings to find the temperatures of past years. So basically, the reliability of that after a bunch of studies that they did became false. Oh no, it became false. The reliability started dipping of those after 1960 for some reason.
I've always heard of like tree rings for age, but not for like temperatures of the earth. That's interesting. I've never heard of that.
I don't really know. But basically, they're trying to make tree rings, our tree ring temperature finding, look more reliable in the papers that they were doing. They didn't fiddle with any numbers.
Just somewhat skewing things or just showing the evidence that makes people believe what you want them to believe instead of the whole truth there.
And so I'll go to the next one. And we can maybe go back if you have any more questions about the first one. But it's a travesty we can't account for the lack of warming. Now, this sounds quite damning on the surface. But if you look further into it, this same guy actually wrote a paper about how the Earth is heating up gradually due to CO2 emissions. But the surface temperature sometimes shows short-term cooling periods. So he was talking about one period of cooling. He was lamenting that our observation systems can't comprehensively track all of the energy flow through the climate system, our entire climate system, which has all these variables that are tough to, like, even climatologists have a tough time doing the science that is involved with this. It's not an easy task. Track all the energy flow through the climate system in order to account for the reason behind those cooling periods. Okay? So he wasn't saying that there's a lack of warming, period.
Right.
He was talking about a specific instance, and it was a shame that I think he may have been referring to the period. There was a between 1998 and 2008. There was an overall cooling period, and it's gone back up. So that may have been what he was referring to.
Gotcha.
But don't just read one sentence and think you know everything.
Right, especially and again, that's just one person. You know, I mean, the overall consensus is that there's obviously some incline here. So it is funny though that how of course people are going to do that, and it's going to become political, and it's going to become, well, let me take this one little bit of ammo and kind of like blow it up to make it seem like everything I've been telling people for a long time. Climate change is bullshit, and here's the one sentence I needed just to prove that all to people.
Yep.
So of course it's going to be blown up and made a huge deal about it.
And not only this. Not only are these explanations behind what I'm saying, I think they're valid, but there were other independent contractors and government scientists outside of the U.S. that did audits per se, or just fact checks on their numbers and on what they were doing with the papers, and they didn't find anything immoral going on.
Yeah, I did see that too. That overall, that it was kind of proven that, with the whole discussion, like you said, not just at the one sentences, but the overall discussion, nothing was actually proved to be off or show any real conclusions that climate change wasn't real.
And this is an inherently political subject, because it's like the coronavirus right now. It's going to affect people. People think about it, and it's something that politicians can and will use, because politicians are pieces of shit. They can and will use anything as a weapon or a shield, and they will if they say If they're trying to appeal to a certain demographic, they're going to say, I'm taking action against climate change. And then somebody's going to say, or do something else to try to disprove it. So there's going to be lots of waffling. Don't listen to the politicians.
Yeah, that's probably
listen
not who
to the
you
scientists.
should start with.
I'm probably going to say that another 5 times.
So why do you think, where do you think the majority of the denial comes from? I know that's a tough one to answer.
I think a majority of it personally comes from the fact that people are just inherently against or opposed to making even minute changes in their everyday lives. Something that's going to change their worldview or something that's going to make them behave in a different way or consume in a different way. There's always going to be pushback against that. Yeah.
Always. You think it's that they don't want to believe it, or it's too inconvenient to believe? It's like, okay, yeah, climate change may be real, but I don't care enough to dig into it, or
it's not affecting them in the present right now.
Right.
So they're not gonna act on it. That's one of the biggest things about the nature of humans that I just lament.
We're mainly reactive.
Yeah, it's that you can't. As a group, we're incapable of looking to the future and making changes that are going to benefit us in the future. That's been a common occurrence throughout history. Yeah. And this is a point where this is basically the idea of what I did my senior thesis on.
Nice.
In college. But one example that I remember thoroughly is there was an island nation out in the Pacific, out in Indonesia, I believe. And the nation itself was a group of like 3 islands. And there was one island that was basically a resource island, but it did have people inhabiting it, and they used it for lumber. So what they did is that it was just like one town on this island. It was a pretty small island. I don't want to give any exact numbers about how big it was, but basically they needed to cut down trees to survive. And they needed to cut down trees to send to their other brothers on the islands, on the other islands. But something happened where they were cut off from the other islands. And instead of using their wood, whatever wood they had left, to make boats and go and join them on the other island and try to figure it out there, they settled out on that island and cut down every single tree that there was, even down to the last tree. It was a completely flat island. They cut down what they knew was the last tree to survive, and every single one of them died. Damn. They just watched their resources deplete. Right. Even though they knew it was coming, they still did it.
Of course.
And that's just like the travesty of humanity right there. Right. Is that we can watch this thing coming. We can be warned. People just won't change.
Yeah,
and it's sad.
I think it's something you kind of have to just teach people as they're younger, that change needs to be made. And if you make it somewhat like a normal routine, like as a child coming up, it seems more normal. But for the longest time, it wasn't something that we ever worried about. I mean, it's just, recently with the maybe come of the 90s or early 2000s that people have like made a huge deal about climate change and like aerosol cans and ozone depletion, stuff like that.
Right.
So like for us, it's kind of like it's a recent phenomenon, and nobody's willing to make these like huge changes because whatever we've done it for hundreds of years.
Scientists said something else in the past, so fuck that. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do.
It's gonna take this time of just like having to teach young people like, hey, we have a problem. Like these are the things we need to start doing to make a difference. And that way, if we make it there in the next 50 to 100 years, you'll have a whole just generation of people that just kind of think differently on the subject, right. which is just goes hand in hand of why we're doing what we're doing right now. Yeah. It's not because, we're going to try to make our individual steps, but it's really about educating, people. It's probably mainly people our age, but hopefully those people are turning around and teaching their children and things like that. And it actually makes a difference. It makes this sort of ripple effect that there will be change in the future because we can see what's happening now and show our children or younger people that there has to be some sort of difference made. If not, then they're going to end up in a way worse position than we are.
You don't teach people what to think. You teach them how to think.
Exactly. I have a question for you, just to kind of switch up the mood for a second. Okay. It still deals with climate change.
Okay. Wait, so, I do want to. Can you hold on to that thought? Yeah. I just want to say as a disclaimer. if you think that little story that I told a little bit ago is either false or just bullshit in general, it was in the book Collapse by Neil Diamond. Go and find it. Okay, continue.
Neil Diamond.
And he's like
sounds like a stage name.
Yeah, it does. He was kind of a like a new age explorer, a culturist or whatever.
Gotcha.
Okay, continue.
So no, I was gonna say, would you rather, like, so if you had to make a difference and you had the choice of either only using the lights in your house for 2 hours a day, every day forever. That includes like flushing your toilets, that's like everything that takes electricity in your house.
Okay.
Which that's a water pump, but still you'd only be able to flush with it. Anyways, so using only electricity for 2 hours a day in your house, or driving a car 1 day a week. Like, which one would you rather do? I don't know. Actually, why would you need to drive 1 day a week?
I was going to say I could utilize public transportation or something if I needed to.
True, like electric buses and stuff like that. Since we have that now in Rockville, which is super cool.
That's nice. And my brother even basically brokered the deal. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I feel like a car would be essential though, because you got to get to the market, you got to get food. You know, you can only walk and take public transportation so far to so many things.
Yeah, I guess.
You know,
but you could still survive. I mean, me with my job, I would have to drive.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying, would you rather only drive 1 day a week or use electricity 2 hours a day?
Drive. I think drive 1 day a week.
And have unlimited electricity in your house. Yeah. That would be way more convenient for sure.
I think so.
Sorry,
same with you?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, it would suck to give up vehicles and transportations, but like eventually that's one of those things that if you had to give it up in 5 years, it wouldn't matter to you anymore. You'd be so accustomed to finding other routes to get things done that you wouldn't even like miss your car that much.
Right.
People in like super rural places, that would be a hard blow to them, and most people would have to move into cities.
That's true. Yeah.
But that's one of those things that we're at least we're changing the infrastructure now. Hopefully it's not too late to again, like we were saying, switch over to hybrids and electric cars and just electrical
there's going to be a point where laws are passed that limits the amount of like what kind of gas vehicle you can drive.
I can't imagine how pissed people are
in the South and in the Bible Belt where trucks are prevalent. That's going to be a huge fucking problem.
Also, transportation with big companies are going to fight that because they have so much like 18-wheelers taking stuff across the country. That's got to be like the number one producer of emissions. Has to be like transportation from companies and stuff like that.
But I think Mercedes has already made like a self-propelled electric semi.
Yeah, I know Tesla was working on it. I don't know what the progressions are at this
point.
But
like we said in the last episode, it's only as good as the power plant that you got. So that's we need to work on. We'll get into that next time on our next episode. It's going to be around renewable energy. We'll be able to get into that kind of stuff.
Nice. That's really
but we're kind of coming to an end here on our discussion on climate change. I know it's been a long time for this discussion.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, like I think you said it perfect at first. You don't have to believe it, but I think that people should at least be aware of it enough to like notice that it's kind of a big deal. I mean, just in 100 years, I know all the models are different. Some say, in the next 20 years we're going to die, in the next 500 years we're going to die, whatever. But it's something that, everybody, especially people our age and younger, should be aware of and should at least start making some sort of conscious small changes to help their environment. I mean, there's no way we can, like we said, put things out in the universe or the just the environment in general, the atmosphere, and not expect it to make a difference. That's just not, that makes no sense to me, and it shouldn't make any sense to anyone else. So just be wary, be aware, try to make differences, look up the right sources to find the information. There's plenty of like resources I'm sure out there that there's actually a website, I know I looked at this in school, that you can track your own like carbon footprint on the world. You can actually kind of make a list of like your day-to-day activities and what you do, and it'll show you how much of an impact you're making on the environment. And I think as of like 2016, with the way that that we consumed goods and energies and produced things into the climate, it would take over 7 Earths to provide, for the people that are already on Earth now. like if that doesn't make any sense, but basically everybody produces 7 times the amount, not everybody, but on average 7 times the global footprint that would otherwise just be natural. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I might not be explaining that very well. But
so we're producing 7 times the carbon of what our Earth produces naturally,
yeah,
or emitting that.
Okay. Exactly. So it would take 7 Earths to sustain the population we have now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which is pretty sad. But anyway, sorry, where I was going with that is that you can get online to figure out how big of a footprint you make and start making little differences.
Yeah, and we have all of these resources at our fingertips. So I have to believe that we're gonna make positive changes.
Yeah,
I have to believe that we're going to make changes for the good. We are, like I said before, humans are incredibly powerful creatures.
Yeah.
We have the ability to do so much, and we should. The power is with you guys. It's with each and every one of us in particular.
Yeah, you think you really can't make a difference, but that's, if everybody thinks that, oh, well, I don't make a difference. Well, that's over 7 billion people that are thinking they don't make a difference, and it really does add up. So if everyone just kind of gets that idea in their mind that, I can make a difference, especially for the climate, it's not going to affect me now, but at least in 100 to, even 1,000 years, maybe humans will still be alive because of the small differences we started to make today.
Yeah, just be the change that you wish to see in the world. I don't know where I heard that.
I think that's Mahatma Gandhi.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think that's a great quote. And I want to say before we get off of this and into our last game, which will be a little bit more lighthearted to end this episode on a more lighthearted note. Just regardless of where you stand here, don't take our word for it.
Yeah.
Never do that. Go and do your own research. And if you do claim to be a skeptic, then you need to do just as much research as anybody. Read and listen to somebody other than Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, or Ann Coulter. You need to go and actually read some scientific articles. If you claim to be a skeptic and you don't do that, then just shut the fuck up. Seriously. You're not actually a skeptic. You are just like trying to keep from changing yourself.
Yeah, you're just being an asshole just because you have the freedom to do so.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, and just source after source after source after source says that humans are emitting a huge amount of CO2, way more than the Earth emits or into the atmosphere by itself.
Right, just naturally.
Yeah.
And I also would like to say, if anyone has any good arguments that could, either prove us wrong of some sort or help us think differently, that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, and I would
hit us with it.
I would like you to not leave a comment. I would like you to make a video and talk about it.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Okay, because a comment, we won't. I'm not going to have a comment war with anybody. That's never going to happen. I'm not going to do it. I've done it, and it's draining because I can't get my points across with just text. And I can't get a good and respectful communication with somebody and have open dialogue via a comment. Yeah. So I challenge you to, even with your phone, if you really disagree with this, do your research, make a video, respond to us with that video.
Yeah, that would be awesome, actually.
I would love that.
And I'd love to be introduced to some data that I haven't heard of before.
Same.
That's the whole point of it. I mean, we do pretty good research, and if somebody out there can find something that we didn't see, that I would love to be introduced to that.
And when you're doing your climate change research, if you do decide to do it after watching this, make sure that you research both anthropogenic climate change in general, and then why anthropogenic climate change is false or something along those lines. Climate change debunked, whatever. Research both sides of the coin and then come up with your own conclusions, because there are always different ways of seeing things,
of interpreting things.
But if you do that, I can basically guarantee you that almost all of the science points to anthropogenic climate change being a problem.
Absolutely.
So I guess we can end with that. Just know that you guys are incredibly powerful, and we make the differences on an individual basis.
Exactly.
We are the world.
Exactly. And that was the point of us being somewhat younger guys, introducing these sort of topics to people our age and people that can listen, because nobody wants to sit down and fucking listen to Al Gore or some climatologist talk about this shit.
Somebody that might have something to gain by it.
Exactly. We have absolutely nothing to gain by it. I mean, we're going to have to make those sacrifices that we're not going to benefit from either, in the here and now. But but we're just trying to make a difference because we actually believe in it, and it's worth spreading to other people to try to make a difference too. Like you said, we're the people that are going to make the difference. We got to do it, and at least for you and I, we can try to spread this message to a different type of people that might not pay attention to this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So
Yeah, and I guess I shouldn't say don't like cut us off at the beginning, but it's at the end. Nobody at the beginning that's cutting it off is going to see this. But like, I'm going to say it in this video just because if you listen to the first like 30 minutes of our video and then immediately go to try to disprove us on something, then you probably should shut the fuck up as well.
Yeah, just take the information too.
Yeah, because like we might have answered the things that you were saying in the latter half of our video. And if you do that and make an entire video about it or something like I was just saying, well, actually you wouldn't have even seen that. If you leave a comment, then I am going to just revert you back to the video. Watch the video.
Watch the video again, or either just can tell you that I don't have the patience to answer your question.
And now I'm slowly starting to sound like a pretentious dick.
Because you are.
Yeah, probably. So let's play a funny game.
Yes.
Let's get unserious.
Lighten the mood. Yeah, lighten the mood up a
Seriously.
bit here.
I love you guys. Thank you for listening this far if you've stuck with us.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the game. Slap, party, smell. Our very own patented rendition of
Yes.
fuck, marry, kill.
Yeah, so 2 of those are pretty obvious what's going on.
Right.
The third one is
one,
left up
smell.
for some debate here.
Yeah, we may change what it is, but we're going to say awkwardly sniff somebody at close range.
Yeah, right on the nip
They
of
have
their
to
neck.
feel their
you know what I mean?
your nose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Just one of those real awkward smells, and they don't know what's coming. It's not like you talk to them about it, like, "Hey, I gotta smell you for a second. Let's, don't be weirded out." This is just
You
walking up. They're like, "Hello,"
you
sticking
shake
their hand
you
out.
go, thank you. Sniff
yes,
their hand or whatever.
yes,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you. All right. So I'm gonna go first. Slap, party, smell.
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln, Mary Todd Lincoln, or John Wilkes Booth?
I don't know who Mary Todd Lincoln is.
That's
I'm
his
gonna
wife.
assume that it's his wife. I'll slap her. I'll party with John Wilkes Booth because he seems a little crazy.
He seems a little crazy. That's right.
and then I'll smell old Abe.
Okay.
You know,
I'm not sure how you'd take that.
It doesn't matter, does it? And he's like 6'4", and I'm not.
Yeah.
So I'd probably get like a good armpit in there or
Maybe,
something. Just
yeah.
bury my head in there real quick.
I bet it's so bad. They didn't have deodorant back
Yeah,
then.
it smells like a lumberjack.
Yeah, right. He probably just rubbed like pine needles and shit. Try to get that
Put
smell
on the
in
same
there.
shirt and suit like every day.
Yes.
You know, it's like crusty and yellow.
Oh yeah, and that top hat can't be much better.
No,
Plenty
it
of
can't.
lice and
I was gonna tell you to answer your own, but that's okay. I'll hit you with mine.
yeah,
instead.
just we've got a lot of these. So.
Okay, slap, party, or smell. Dale Earnhardt, Oprah, or the Pope.
I'm gonna slap the Pope first off.
Damn, that was quick. Okay.
What was the first one? I'm sorry.
Dale Earnhardt.
Dale
Number
Earnhardt.
3, not number 8.
I'm gonna party with Dale Earnhardt. I'm sure he
Okay.
drinks a lot of beer, and then I will smell Oprah.
Ooh. that
'Cause
might
she
not be
probably
bad.
smells good.
Yeah, she probably does smell
Actually, I
good.
could party with Oprah because she's rich as hell.
Yeah, and
know
Dale
what?
Earnhardt's dead, so.
You know what? I'm gonna smell Dale Earnhardt and party with Oprah. And
This is post-race.
yes, that's
3
right, and
hours.
slap the Pope.
3 hours of sealing in some stench.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
delish.
He
Yeah,
just
that's right.
unzips
Pressure
it
cooking.
and like the heat comes
Oh
out.
God! All right, here we go. Slap, party, smell.
Hit me.
Chris Tucker, Jackie Chan, or Justin Bieber.
I'm gonna smell Justin Bieber.
Okay.
I will not slap Jackie Chan. I'll slap Chris Tucker and party with Jackie Chan.
Good answers.
That would be interesting.
Partying with Jackie Chan would be fun.
That's something that's never crossed my mind before. But I don't know. I feel like he's just one of those dads. You know, I don't even
By
know if he
now.
is a dad, but. Just he's just like kind of relaxed and quiet, and if someone said like whore or bitch too loud, he would be offended. So that would be uncomfortable. All right, anyway, sorry. All right, slap party smell: Terry Crews, Rihanna, Hillary Clinton.
I am absolutely slapping Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
Real
Okay.
hard. Bap! I'm definitely partying with Terry Crews.
Okay, that'd be cool.
And I'll smell whoever the other one was.
Rihanna.
Rihanna, yeah.
I think I'd party with Rihanna and smell Terry Crews.
I love Terry Crews so much.
Yeah,
so
that would be
I would
fun.
party with him.
Yeah. Okay, that was a good one. I
All
like
right.
it. Hit me with one.
Condoleezza Rice, George H.W. Bush, or Osama bin Laden.
So I'm gonna slap Osama.
Okay.
That's a pretty easy one. I don't want
I
to.
might party with Osama.
I bet shit gets crazy over there.
Yeah, you
The
just get drunk and shoot AKs into
like
there.
Afghan Kush mountains and everything.
Ooh.
I was looking at mine and forgot. I don't care about Condoleezza Rice, so I'll just smell her and then I'll party with the Bush.
Hey,
I'm
he's
sure
probably
that man
fun.
out in Texas on those ranches. I'm sure it gets weird out
he
there.
was a cheerleader, you know.
And you,
I don't know what that means about anything.
well,
but-
thank goodness he's flexible. That's what I thought about the whole time.
Good one.
Okay, this is weird, but Aubrey Plaza, Winston Churchill, or Bill Gates?
I would absolutely party with Aubrey Plaza. I
Okay.
would slap Winston Churchill, and I would smell Bill Gates.
Man, I just know how awkward of a person Bill Gates seems to be in his interviews, and I feel like he would be completely freaked out. He'd probably be like assassinated afterwards. Some random person, hey, Mr. Gates, nice to... and then
Security.
and then you sprint away. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Good one.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Harambe, Dumbo, and Old Yeller.
Wow. Oh, man. I'm not slapping Harambe. That's a big bitch.
Mhm.
I would slap Dumbo
Okay.
because I don't give a shit about that. What was the Old Yeller? Ooh. Actually, damn, I'm sure they all smell bad. I'll smell Old
Keep in mind, Dumbo is a cartoon, so he doesn't smell like anything.
True. I was just thinking of an elephant. So I'm gonna change it up then. If we're just going for the cartoon, I'll smell Dumbo. I'm gonna party with Harambe because who wouldn't?
That's right.
You know what I mean? And then I'm gonna slap Old Yeller. Damn, that would be a tough one for me to slap a dog, but I've probably done it before. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched it.
Yeah. Damn it. All right. Next, Copernicus. That would be
Nicholas.
Nikolai. I don't know. It's probably Nicholas.
It's Nicholas.
J.K. Rowling.
Okay.
Mike Tyson.
Oh.
Yes.
I definitely would not slap Mike Tyson.
No.
I would party with Mike Tyson.
Yeah, he's got a weed resort.
What was the second one? I'm sorry.
J.K. Rowling
Okay.
or Copernicus? Hey, Copernicus.
I would smell J.K. Rowling and slap Copernicus.
Come on.
I don't know. I just don't. I would feel wrong slapping J.K. Rowling. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
All she did was write a book.
Yeah. Well, 8.
Yeah,
books.
yeah, dude.
She's like a hero
She
for so many
changed
people.
culture in general.
And I could get sued for all I'm worth. Copernicus is like, he wasn't even rich or anything, you know.
No,
Slap the shit out of that
that's
boy.
true.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Good call. Good
All right.
call. Way to debate me.
Here we go. Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, and Post Malone.
God, I don't care about any of these people. I'll party with Post Malone.
Definitely don't smell him.
No, I wouldn't smell Cardi B either. I'd slap the shit out of her and smell Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. That was actually pretty easy.
I think I would party with Nicki Minaj, slap Cardi B, and smell Post Malone.
Yeah.
Because I know Post Malone smells really bad.
I was just thinking
but-
about this today, too. Or
Actually, I'm going to say I'd party with Post Malone, smell Nicki Minaj, and slap Cardi B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand why people think Post Malone's attractive. I'm like, if you...
It's because he's rich.
Right. But why don't people notice that? It's like if you saw him at Burger King with like his hat halfway on, would you think that he was attractive?
Of course not.
Probably not.
If you didn't know who he was.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be like, this guy's a fucking hobo.
Right. But just because he's rich, it's like, I want to fuck him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last one for me.
All right.
Randy Travis, LeBron James, or Miley Cyrus?
Party with LeBron, slap Miley Cyrus, and smell Randy Travis.
Yeah, I bet he smells like an old leather boot or something. Some cigarettes.
Probably. Maybe some whiskey in there
Yeah,
somewhere.
true. And heartache.
Yes.
Because every country song's about heartache.
That's true. It's got the blues.
Got,
Life sucks.
my truck ran away.
Oh, god damn. I have an autonomous truck and it ran away. Actually, just kidding. I would never buy an autonomous truck because that's the devil.
Because you can't fuck the tailpipe.
That's right. And I can't carry my horses.
You can't carry my
Actually,
horses.
you can. Yeah, you could.
You could carry a horse? Oh, your truck can.
An
sorry.
autonomous electric truck could probably,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it?
I think that's it.
Guys,
Again, if there's anything we missed, feel free to chime in.
if y'all stuck with us this far, we appreciate it. Whoa. Is that bad?
I don't know. I hope not.
I hope not too. But if it did it die?
Yeah, it's not plugged in.
No.
Well, so that one went off, but let's
It's
end it
okay.
here.
But we had a little camera malfunction. It's all right.
Yeah, we always have some problems. So yeah, it totally went off, but
It's okay. I didn't notice it for a while. Like, it was there for a long time, so we're
was.
probably good. But guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. If you have thus far, feel free to leave us a comment, like, subscribe.
Tell us we're done.
Yeah, do that because we are.
But like and subscribe, then tell us we're done.
Yeah, right.
Then I'd appreciate that.
Yes,
Then
absolutely.
I might pay attention to what you say.
Yeah. This has been episode 5, Climate Change.
Climate change, a big deal. We had to talk about it. Again, we'll talk about it in the future
I'm
as
sure
we
we
go
will.
along. But it's good to get some of the basics out of the way.
That's right.
AKA do your own research.
AKA, that's the biggest take from this.
Do your
is to
damn
do
research.
your own research. But thank you very much, guys. This has been Cause and Defect, the serious, or God, I did that at the beginning. The show for serious conversations with not so serious people. We appreciate it.
God bless. All right. Well, that sucks for this.